IVM.
Part of the reason why I sound like I know so much about so much is because I spend a fair bit of time listening to Simplified. Simplified on the IVM podcast app takes up big topics and breaks them down, making them simplified. Check them out every Monday.
Stories, we've got stories. They're a little bit of funny and a little bit of dissent. You wanna hear them? It's got humans. They're sitting in a box and talking bold at Varta live.
So, you know Dhaval, Navin,
Yes.
and hopefully whoever listens to the podcast also knows Dhaval by now. And so Dhaval has a very wonderful family full of like really great stories, okay? And one of the people he used to keep mentioning was his uncle Prathamesh Popat, okay? And I was also always been intrigued. Because he sounds like a personality when you hear about him only, okay? And then one fine day in the evening, he happened to be free. So we went down to his office, and what ensued was one of the most memorable conversations I've had. And that's why I felt like it was really apt to get him on the second season of Varta Lab. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Prathamesh Popat.
Hi,
How are you doing, sir?
absolutely fine.
Right up front, I'd like to apologize to you and to the life in general for being as late as I was today. I had a series of unfortunate events that occurred.
Sometimes you can't help it. Like you want to reach somewhere on time, and it's like everything works against you.
In Bombay, it never works.
It never works.
Work for you.
Yeah. The Murphy's Law applies most, I think, in this city.
Absolutely.
So anyway, now that we are here and we have you here, we'd like to talk about. You're a distinguished mediator. You're a well-known lawyer in and around. But I wanted to know how that story started.
Before we do anything else, one disclaimer. When you called me up, I was vacationing with my family in Switzerland. So wife was right next to me, hearing everything. And she was wondering like, why would they want to call you when I'm around? Because I said, she said, if they want to know about your work, then I understand. But if they want to know about you, then why you? Call me. And that's absolutely right. The wives know us better than even we know. And I remember one incident of one person who, when as a kid, remembered that he had gone to his grandparents' house and the grandmother just gave him a glass of water and says, give it to Dadaji, who's sitting in the veranda. And he's wondering, like, I am playing, Dadaji is reading the newspaper elsewhere, and she's in the kitchen. Suddenly she calls me, gives me a glass of water. Very well. I don't know, maybe they have some intercom system. So he went there, found there is nothing, no phone over there, but he gave the glass. Dadaji, reading the newspaper, took the glass, drank it, kept it down, got back to his newspaper. And he said, he wondered, like this is really what I call a Ardhangini, who knows when the other part of the body is thirsty.
Yeah.
So, the wives really know us better. And that, unfortunately, that is so in my life also.
No, I think it's also, I remember reading about this recently where when we are in a close relationship with somebody else, so our brain automatically starts assigning memories to that person's mind.
Yes, absolutely.
Like you don't remember how to use the remote because your kids know how to use the remote, So that's why a lot of times when somebody significant other passes away, they feel like a part of them has died, which is true. A lot of their memories which were kept in this person are now no more there.
Absolutely.
So how many years of marriage has it been, sir?
Quite many. Silver Jubilee ho gaya.
Oh, nice.
Recently.
Right.
So it's been about, I think, 27 years.
Have you always been traveling in your marriage? Because I know you travel for a lot of mediations.
See, travel is something which पाँव में चक्कर होता है तो कुछ ना कुछ निकलता ही रहता है traveling का. And really my work से ज़्यादा और कुछ चीज़ें हैं which drive me to go for learning more and more to different parts of the globe. So I have been doing this mediation training for the last 20 years. It first flare, the flick happened in 1997. And then nothing much for a year or so, but that ignited me, and then I started slowly going. And, in the initial stage, you don't really realize this is how much I need to travel or will be traveling. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't start with the first step. But now having come this far, I have been looking back and find that I have gone across 5 continents for the last, since 2 decades. And the journey is still on. And I've been doing these learnings not only just in the field of mediation, but also what I would call the supportive fields of neuro-linguistic programming, psychology, meditation, like Vipashana and all that.
Oh, nice.
And that's
Navin
where
recently did his Vipassana.
Yeah. I mean, I find that Vipashana is something which each and every person needs to do it.
Should do it,
especially if you are in Bombay and want to be centered.
Yeah.
Time पे पहुंचना और नहीं पहुंचने वाले हैं, तो at least be centered in yourself so that whenever you get there, you hit the ground running. Okay, let's not worry about what we did not achieve or did not get to, but अभी क्या करना है? So being in the moment is something which we mediators really need to have as second nature.
Yeah,
and I
it's
find
close to what we also do as comics. Like, I do that every time before I go on stage. I center myself. I'm like, now anything happens, it's okay because I'm in the now.
Yeah, and you have to control that now by yourself. I love that.
And Akash, I would tell you that Vipassana is something which you must do, and there is nothing that replaces Vipassana.
I ask people to do stand-up in the exact same way for the same reasons.
No, you are absolutely right. Stand-up is something which will really put you up front, front line पर रख देगा, facing all the stand guns. But understand this, that at that point, you want the right reaction. कोई भी गधा कुछ भी बोल देगा, खड़े कुछ, this everybody speaks. The wise because they have something to say, and the fools because they have to say something. So you could be either as a stand-up. And I've unfortunately found that I keep going to these Wednesday, Thursdays, some sessions at that Palladium, and sometimes you wonder why the hell did I come here. But then again you land up after 4-5 weeks.
So
hopefully the scene,
that is my story.
Hopefully the scene has changed, and those guys fill up the whole of their performance with fillers, not any meaty stuff as such. And that's why I say that Vipassana is something which you must do, and I would equate it with anything else by saying that you take a glass of water, put it in a deep freeze, and you take a glass of water and put it in a refrigerator. The second glass you may take days and months but will never become ice, and just in a few short hours the thing in the deep freezer will become ice. And that's Vipassana for you. That you may do whatever other meditation, but 10 days of Vipassana and you really get it. And nothing else comes close to it. People may say, come and I'll do it. And I'll tell you because I've tried all these. Art of Living, Jaggi Vasudev, that Isha Foundation, Transcendental Meditation, several others. I was a member of Kaivalya. I even renewed the membership after some time. But that's of course yoga, not meditation. But I have tried several things. And Vipassana I have found, even Sahaj Marg is very good. And even there are a few others I have been doing. And I find that Vipassana helps you in all those things, whichever you may want to do. Plus, in your daily life, of course, the benefit you see all the time.
So it's just more a skill set than anything else.
You have to basically practice it every morning, which is something I fail to do because Bombay again.
No, I will tell you this much, that those people will tell you as the ideal thing, 1 hour morning, evening. That may seem daunting to you. But I'll tell you that a person who you want to start smoking, like suppose you have a kid of 12 years, 14 years, देख बेटे कल से 20 सिगरेट पीनी ही पड़ेगी, वो नहीं हाथ लगाएगा. बट उधर पैकेट छोड़ दो ने, कोई देखता नहीं है, माचिस भी ढूंढ लेगा, गाड़ी के पीछे जाके करेगा, उसके ऊपर छोड़ दो और 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4 करके धीरे धीरे he'll come to 2 packs a day, not just 1 pack. And that's about Vipassana also, that you take it सहज, सुबह शाम 5 मिनट. अभी ट्रेन में बैठे हैं, बस में बैठे हैं, कुछ काम धंधा नहीं है, instead of trying to get signal to check your WhatsApp, relax and forget the world and do your Vipassana for 10 minutes, आनापान करो भले. And you find those small things really matter. And at the end you have something like, the recurring deposit होता है ना, रोज 1 रुपया डालो, कितना हो जाता है. It really, I'm telling you, forget what they say. Try this. Have your own schedule of 5 minutes and slowly you'll find you are down to 2 packs a day.
I agree because I did a clowning workshop this weekend, and clowning workshop is again like something that makes you feel comfortable, like being a fool on stage. Like, as you said, the fool, you have to be like underlining your mistakes sometimes on stage. You have to be okay with being a dumbass, But so when they were teaching us principles around clowning, there's one thing that we saw was the centering part only. Like for example, if you want to push somebody and the guy uses force, like physical force, you can still nudge them and they'll move out because they're using their force against you and you use their force against them, right? That's how it works. But when you center yourself, nothing can move you. Your hand, if you keep it like this and center it, no one can put your hand down. You know, it's like, it's very profound, but it's amazing what the body can do.
Absolutely.
Like you can lift a grown-ass man with your two fingers if you want to, make them focus like above. If they look above, they become light automatically, and they look below, they become heavy automatically.
Yes.
So the power of centering is amazing, and I basically, because I became an atheist somewhere down my college years, and I was like, Vipashana seems like another one of those spiritual things I won't, subscribe to. But our producer Janam went to it, and she's like, and I've known her for like 4 years now, 5 years, and I could see a visible change in her demeanor. So I was like, maybe let me try it. And I would highly recommend anybody to go to the 10-day course, because how grueling it is, first of all, because it teaches you to like go back to the medieval times where you don't have technology, you can't talk to anybody, you're like in a jail cell sort of almost, but it's required for internal monologue. It's like a contemplation you do. And like in the end, when Mr. Goenka does a seminar in the end, like because he's passed away now, but they still have his workshops. Like he did a bunch of videos that he recorded and before he passed away. So they show you that video, and for you, that's like the only form of entertainment you get in the evening. Like it's like watching MTV with your family in the evening. So you watch it and you're like, hey, everything it says hits home ground. Like it's so true.
Yeah.
And when I came back to the real world, my anger in many ways just dissipated because I have a short temper. But I was just like, what am I reacting to?
Yeah, that's definitely true. You are way more measured now.
Yeah. I learned to let go.
Yeah.
So it's very key, and I think like it's important to talk about this right now in the opening of the episode, because most of us are like, I don't know, even the people are listening to us, they're running to their work, they're going in a car, they're going in a train. It's haywire.
Yeah.
But when you bring it all together, it's like, kya kar loge?
And as you mentioned that people would be listening to this whilst they are in the midst of life, and that's really what even the Gita is. It started whilst the war had already started all around, and therefore I would like to just give this a bit of information that Vipashana is something which nobody can say they can't afford it. For two reasons. That if you have the commitment to yourself of giving 12 days, 10 days of the course, 1 day to go, 1 day to come back if it's a little far away. If you have that 12 days, then there is no excuse, because this course takes place back to back for these 10 days, 11 days. And it is happening in over 100 centers across the globe, and it is totally free of charge. And the website is there, dhamma.org, dhamma.org. So anybody can log on, check their nearest center. Maybe the date is not suitable, check some distant center, and just pick up a time and apply for it.
But it's not easy for everybody also. A lot of my friends got rejected also because of their they ask you a very intense questionnaire before you enter. So if you have a history of breaking down psychologically, or if you have had a smoking habit that you can't quit, they ask you also, why do you want to do this? And I was just like, I was getting over a breakup back then, so it seemed like the right place to go, because I was like, if I have my phone, I'll just like text my ex, so I don't want that. So that
but that you are right, absolutely. I was wanting to do it for nearly 3.5 decades when I was hardly 17, and at that time I was smoking, and this continued for 3 decades. So I would drop several relatives to, that time we had only Igatpuri, so I would go all the way to Igatpuri to drop them again, to pick them up and be at the gate and hear their experiences and say I want to do it, and then would be told, no, but you can't do it, because you wouldn't be allowed to have any smokes inside. And that made me postpone it. That okay, when I kick this habit, I'll pick this up. So that's what happened after 3 decades. And so immediately a year and a half later, I looked for one and signed up for it. And so I feel this must be done by everybody.
You mentioned that your family also, you dropped a lot of people from the family.
Yes.
So was it like spiritual growing up?
No. Nothing fanatic about it. My dad did it once or twice. My mom did it also 2-3 times. My uncle had taken them one after the other.
But that's way higher than an average family, ideally. I mean, so was it a generally spiritual family growing up?
Yes, spiritual depends on what's your definition of spiritual. But like my father was a Swadhyai, so he used to follow his guru Pandurang Shastri Athavale, and my mother also had her guru, and each had their own way of doing things. I now have my own way of doing things.
Do you have a guru now?
I do, and I have several spiritual brothers in addition. My grandmother used to do lot many of these kathas, 108 kathas she did, 116 I think, plus 6 other Ramayans she did. And these are like, 7 days per katha in 216, then 9 days per Ramayana into 6. Maybe she did more, but Murari Bapu did about 4, 5 or 6 Ramayans for my mother.
Murari Bapu, if you don't know, he's huge in the Ramayana circuit.
Yeah, I remember some relative saying he's the Amitabh Bachchan in the scriptural world of today. So yes, he is. He's also like my spiritual brother in that sense, and several of them, because my grandmother used to have their kathas. So I grew up with these people, and I've learned a lot from them. And I would say that leave all that aside, see what works for you, and first see yourself. And see how you can center yourself. And that's why I keep coming back to Vipashana, because if you are not centered, then all these things are like, bumper jata hai.
Everything will just like throw you off in one way or the other, and you feel like very
But
dejected.
Vipashana to karna chahiye.
But how does you seem like somebody who has on some level gotten past the existentialism of day-to-day life.
I suppose after you marry and have 2 kids, you get past across several things very easily.
But doesn't is it really just that the futility stops
there
weighing on you?
No, there is no futility. It's all a nurturing experience. So it's not that you are getting past it because it's futile. You are getting past it because you are over it. Like you have...
No, I meant life as a whole.
No, life as a whole, I'm saying that you enjoy each moment, you learn from each moment, and you nurture yourself. Little or more, and where it applies, you don't know down the line. But at this moment, you are complete, you are centered, and you are enjoying it. And that's where I find that in mediation, several of my mediations have gone haywire. Most have succeeded, touch wood, but several have gone haywire somewhere in between. And we always get back on the horse and ride on, and things move smoothly. Sometimes none is the wiser when things go wrong, but things work out at the end, mostly.
So for the listeners at home who don't know how mediations work, could you give like a simple
breakdown?
Yeah.
Okay, so litigation, if you know that you file a case in court if you have a dispute against someone, against that person, and then the court will at its own sweet will, not exactly sweet will, but unfortunately they can't do anything about it today. So whenever they can, maybe after 5, 10, 20 years, they would hear your case and decide who was right or wrong and who needs to pay how much to whom. But everything is decided on the basis of past actions and the law applicable at that point of time. To give you one short example, if today someone were to try to commit suicide, then that's a crime. They don't say suicide is a crime because you can't catch the culprit. He's gone. But to try to commit suicide means you have failed. So that is a crime because I can catch you. So now I'm going to put you behind bars, make your life even more hell than you already were experiencing, which was forcing you to commit suicide. But we will not allow you to die. And even if he is out on bail, whenever the case is decided, it would be decided on the basis of the applicable law today. Tomorrow when the law is changing as we are expecting, it will be something else. So even if this case is tried after 20 years, the law that is going to change after 20 months maybe will not be applicable. It will be the law that today. Is today. So if today attempting to commit suicide is going to give you 6 months or 2 years in jail, then that's what's going to happen.
20 years down the
line. And after 20 months, if the law changes, then no, he should be given counseling and all that, then maybe the court may say, अच्छा इसको जेल में डालो और साथ में counseling भी कराओ उसका. So the poor fellow is going to get some help maybe, but still he would have to suffer. So that's how the law goes. Whereas when you do mediation, you cut the cloth as per your own size, the way you want it, like Mary Marazi. So in mediation, you can get it done today and you can get it done the way you want it. And unfortunately in arbitration, it's the same as litigation. It's nothing but a private judge you have. So he also cannot decide beyond the reference, the terms of reference. And the moment he goes beyond that, you can immediately appeal and that award would be accepted as a challenge.
So one more thing Aakash mentioned when we were researching for your episode was that you believe in astrology, and that
there is nothing like belief. You know it or you don't know it.
Because see, today a lot of people are skeptical, and all of that.
No, you should be skeptical because in fact I would say just forget it rather than waste your energy in being skeptical कि होएगा नहीं होएगा. Like I wonder ये दरवाजे के पीछे क्या है क्या नहीं है, कोई आएगा नहीं आएगा, वो खिड़की के पीछे क्या, अच्छा वो पर्दा है बंद है तो पर्दा खोले क्या. All these doubts waste your energy. Rather just open the door, open the window, open the curtain and see what's behind. See what works for you. Today, astrology is a science. Question only is, how many expert scientists do we know who have mastered this science? And therefore, people are not actually testing the science. They are testing those so-called experts and are passing a judgment on the science based on their experience of that expert.
Yeah, for me, astrology is Bejan Daru wala. It's like that kind of
it's so, I completely agree with you, because I used to be a complete skeptic until, I encountered the right people, so to speak, who treated it like math virtually.
It is. It is.
And the kind of predictions they've had are actually, as weird as it sounds, they have been like almost 100% accurate.
No, a gentleman came to my house sometime back, many years back, and he told me a few things just by looking at my horoscope, and he was absolutely right, and they were relating to my health and they were relating to things of the past, and therefore when he says something about the future, which of course proved right later on after 7 years, you understand that yes, the guy was a Dhurandhar in his field. And that's where I say that it's a science. How many scientists do we know who are experts in this field?
But it's also very inaccessible science. Nobody would know where to find the rudiments of this science.
Yeah, you don't know who is the right person for you.
Yeah, even on the internet, there's no real
absolutely
clarity.
And only thing is that I do remember one line. One of the several spiritual expeditions, journeys that I have been having is one Avdut Baba Shivanand, and he has his Shivyog. His website is also shivyog.com, and he says one very nice line. So people come to me and says, "Kya aap bhagya batate hai?" And he said, "My answer is, हाँ, मैं भाग्य बताता हूँ." No full stop. हाँ, मैं भाग्य बताता हूँ कैसे बदला जाता है. So that's something which is empowering. I mean, someone can tell you कि आपका नसीब में ये है, ये है. But उसका क्या अभी? Now what about it? How do I go about changing that? And that's where his science, which he, if you see his websites, somewhere you'll find it, the banner says Science Beyond Science. And this is something which is practical and which is happening and which has been tested. Today, nowadays, people are very left brain. They always want proof of everything. I mean, when you see a girl and you say, I don't know, I really feel that she is part of me. It seems like I've met my soulmate. But when you are asked to explain it with your left brain, to give a measure to someone who can also measure, yes, I can see that you are soulmates. That's not possible. And that's where I say that if you can measure something, then only you would believe it. And therefore, when Avdut Baba Shivanand does whatever he does, people may not believe it. Unless they experience it. But for those who cannot experience it, like, I have got a tube, and if he cures that, I am experiencing it. But how does someone else? So he often goes abroad, and those people are all those left brain people. So they say, okay, you are going to treat him, let's put a measure to it. So they have already got a record of the medical history of that person. At that moment, they have put monitors on that person, and he is now starting his sadhana. And you can see even a smallest thing, like pet mein pathri hai. That stone also, gallbladder stone, it disappears right in front of the machines. So that's, I say, the science. And he has even got so many accolades, certificates, recognition. Not that he is bothered about them, but it helps to get people understand that this is not hocus pocus. And this is something which you don't need to believe in. It just happens.
I think there's extremities in this country especially. For example, the skeptics will be like very off-center. They'll be like, ki nahi, hota hi nahi aisa kuch. While those who believe have gone, like they don't understand the science, so they're like, ye jadoo hai. Like he'll solve all our problems. We'll go to one guy and he'll solve all our issues. So that's why the extremities don't come together, and that's why we don't.
And then you become lackadaisical and complacent. Kacha, he will do it. I don't need to do anything.
Exactly. Also, like, did you know there's a new star sign now? It's called Ophiuchus.
नहीं.
This recently happened. I was like, there's a news article कि मतलब already इतनी सारी राशि है और एक और star alignment के हिसाब से Ophiuchus भी आ गया. तो everybody after like Feb, I think, has been aligned later. So I was like a little amused by this.
See, I think that one is fake. I have a feeling that one might be.
Well, don't knock it till you try it. We'll have to see. We'll have to ask Bejan Daruwala.
All right, we're going to take a quick break so that you can hear words from corporations that keep this ship afloat, and we'll be back out in a little bit.
In Varta lab.
We'll be back in a while.
Hey everybody, it's another awesome week on IVM Podcast. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. This week on Cyrus Says, Cyrus talks to journalist Rachel Lopez about her Taxi Ceiling art series and her own podcast, Wordy Wordpecker, available only on the IVM network. On Simplified, Chuck, Naren, and Shrika deconstruct the latest UN report on climate change and why the next 2 decades might be the most important for the Earth. On the latest special episode of Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Hansi Malhotra, an investment professional and owner of the financial blog, themoneyhunts.com. On Shunya One, Sheila Ditya and I speak to Arpit Ratan, co-founder of SignZ, a fintech company that makes regulatory processes for bank and other financial institutions simple, secure, and compliant. On the Kinetic Living podcast, Coach Urmi talks to childhood buddy and actor Shikat Alsaniab. She elaborates on her fitness journey and how she balances work, diet, and the need to stay fit. And just a reminder, guys, please tell a friend. You need to tell a friend that you're listening to a podcast that you like and get them to listen to the podcast that you think they will like. And with that, let's take you on with your show.
Welcome back to Varta Lab. Before the break, we were talking to Mr. Prathamesh Popat. A condemned, what do you call it? A commendable
Condemn
lawyer.
is the wrong word completely.
An amazing lawyer and a Vipashana practitioner.
I love how,
Just like
have
myself.
you noticed how people nowadays, we've begun to shed a lot of adjectives.
Yeah.
Like we use amazing for almost anything.
Yeah.
Like nobody said delectable anymore.
Awesome.
Awesome, everything is awesome.
Yeah. Everything is eclectic.
Yeah.
That word's become the bane of my existence.
Eclectic. What an eclectic mix of...
Lineup.
Awesomeness.
Yeah. But Mr. Prathamesh was saying that, you actively quit smoking after you went to Vipashana.
No, before,
I tried quitting it many years. For many years. Every Shravan I used to leave it and then it would come back, creep in maybe after a couple of months or maybe 3-4 months. But then, I don't know, I would only say with divine intervention that it just happened that it never came back. And that's what I like about this thing, that there seems to be some surety that I may not get it back.
Yeah.
I remember one incident where, again, a spiritual brother of mine was mentioning that, do you know when you last played marbles? Do you know? You don't
Well, in
remember.
my case...
my generation skipped marbles completely.
Okay.
No, we used to play bantas, something
So
like
he
that.
said, you don't ever remember the last time you played it. That means ke ye chuti gayo chhe. It has slipped out of your life. It's not that you have made a conscious effort to shun it out of your life. And he said, when you make a conscious effort, then it's part of your ego. It's very likely to come back.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah, but when it's just gone, it's gone. Like, abhi wapas nahi aayega. You never have a craving to play marbles. You see someone, that's fine. You try your hand at it. But once you leave that gully, next gully you don't say, "Arey nahi, ek aur ghanta free hai, to wapas jaake khel ke aata hu."
Just like find new distraction in life in general at every given point.
Yeah.
And
I
really
think there's
distractions.
also that idea of with each phase of your life you have to do something else.
Yeah.
Like you fit a different role overall based on how you have grown up. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So smoking, I found that trying was not helping, but somehow it just happened.
Just doing it helps.
Even drinking, it just with divine intervention, you may say, but it never came back then.
Correct.
After one Shravan, I just gritted it out for a month or two, and then that thing never came back again.
Yeah. So in my case, I was trying very actively to like not smoke afterwards also, because the cravings hit you really hard. Like midway through the course, like on the 5th day, I was like looking outside the window at the gate, like hoping to run away and go to the nearest cigarette shop. And before going to Vipashana, I had scouted the entire area to see where the closest cigarette shop was. It was down the hill. So like I was tempted a bunch of times to, because they keep the gate open. They're like, you want to go, you go. Then don't come back. So I'm like, what if I run and buy a cigarette? But then like I kept the craving okay. Like by the 10th day it was fine. I was fine. But as soon as I got out, again the craving came back. Because it's accessible to you, you won't do it. So I remember I caught an Uber, and the Uber driver knew where he's picking me up from. He knew he was from the Vipashana center. So he's like, in 10 days, what did you miss the most? And I'm like, I miss cigarettes. So he's like, I'm going to pull up to a cigarette shop. You buy 2 cigarettes. I'm like, okay, he wants to share the joy of smoking with me. Maybe it's an experiment. So I'm like, okay, I'll go and buy. And it's raining like heavy, okay? So I like, trudge along the waters and get 2 cigarettes. And I offer it to him. He's like, nahi sahab, aap hi foko dono. I mean, why do you make me like buy 2? He's like, because now you'll smoke 2 and then stop it entirely. Like, do what you want, but like, don't smoke after this. And I'm like, I just booked an Uber. I didn't want to Vipashana after Vipashana. You know what I'm saying?
Life advice.
No, but I find that these are some of the very touching moments of life where I had a similar incident. I'm standing at around 10:30 in the night. This is about 20 years, 30 years back. Outside this Ambassador Hotel, there used to be a row of those cigarette vendors on the pavement. And this Mohammedan fellow, he's the cigarette vendor. And I've been smoking over there, just buying a cigarette or two once in a while and puffing away. Not that I don't have my own pack, but I meet some friends over there.
Correct.
And sometimes my stock gets over, I replenish at his shop. So one day nobody's around, I'm just waiting for my another friend to come. And he said, Popat bhai, bura nahi mano to ek baat bolu. Bola, हाँ बोलो अभी. So he said, आपके हाथ में cigarette अच्छी नहीं लगती. And I found that very touching, because here is a guy whose business is going to get hit to the extent that I will stop buying if I stop smoking. But that didn't stop him from telling me to do away with this vice. And then that's, I find very touching, some of these small incidents in life.
Yeah. And you know, like when I was younger, my father was he's still a smoker, but like he was a very heavy smoker. Like he used to go through 3 packs in a day. And that became like a bone of contention for everybody in the family. We all, like, you know, at different points we told our father not to smoke. And I was in 7th grade and I stopped talking to my dad for 3 months. Very proactively saying that until you stop smoking, I won't talk to you. And that served like as a means for him to reduce and cut down. He would go out of the house, not like smoke in the house all the time. And cut 2 years later, when I was a smoker, and I go to a family dinner, and my brother-in-law looks at me and he's like, there's noticeable coloring of the lips that goes wrong, right? Like after you smoke enough. So he's like, what's up, man? Are you smoking? And my sister's like, no. He was very anti-smoking. He'll never smoke. And internally, I'm like, if you only knew, dear sister, you still trust me to be a nice person.
It's my friend Meet and I, we have this joke. So when we were in school, now it was a similar, you know, like I used to be the guy who would walk around saying, I better not catch you smoking and drinking once we get into college.
Yeah.
And you know, and I remember sitting with Meet and reflecting on this maybe 5-6 years later. And we were just like, yeah, and you know, our friend Adit doesn't smoke or drink. Okay. So we're just sitting there and talking to each other and like, yeah, what happened to those children? Like, you know, remember when we used to be like, if you can't smoke, you can't drink. And, you know, we both looked at each other and like, yeah, Adit took it seriously.
But let's go back to our first memories of when we were first given a cigarette in a hand. Like, it's always somebody else who always kind of like initiates us into the studio engineer. Shravan is pointing at me. I'm not that person. I wouldn't voluntarily do something like that.
Shravan, you have no right to say anything. You drive your bike at over 100 kilometers.
Without a license.
What?
He does not even have a license.
He doesn't have a license?
Or a helmet.
What is it? You don't drive? You drive without a helmet? Your bike, he says his bike has airbags and all, apparently.
It's one of those KTM high-end versions.
What nonsense. Why are you riding a bike without... Anyway, so first time we were offered death.
Yeah.
So you should start because... You are the oldest.
And you had the cheapest cigarettes.
Yeah, we say ladies first. The one who are going to pop it first. No, I remember it was another person in my uncle's building. And we had that first cigarette where he had brought it in a compass box. And we...
Oh, how young were you?
About 13.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
So... 13 or 14 maybe, and we went in the basement, looked 15 times around and nobody's there in the afternoon, went behind the car and all the time worrying कि ये धुआं ऊपर कैसे जा रहा है, नीचे इसको कैसे लेके जा रहा है. So that was also another worry कि the smoke rising up would show that there is somebody behind that car. So like I remember those days, and you know it was horrible. The first few puffs, and I wonder like, I remember another incident where I had my first beer. This relative of mine is having and relaxing, reading a novel on the lawns, and I'm looking at him, and he looks at me suddenly. You know, you get a little bit conscious somebody's looking at you, and he puts his novel down. He said, "What's it?" I said, "No, what are you having? Beer. You want to try?" I said, "Yeah," because I thought like he's sitting in the lawn reading a novel. Under the shade and sipping it away, so it must be lovely. So I said, yeah, I want to try. And I tried it, it was so horrible. And then he looked at me, see, this is what I have to suffer. So much medicine I have to have because of my health problems. So you be healthy, play around, keep your body active so that you don't have such nonsense like I have to.
Okay, what about you, Akash? When were you first introduced?
My dad would give me spoons full of beer as a kid to say it's terrible. And unbeknownst to him, I used to like it.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is interesting. I don't mind this at all. And then once I remember the same place I ate non-veg for the first time, actually, with my friend Meet's dad. I think he's responsible for all the Gujarati sins that I've been committing. But yeah, first time I was out with them, and like, you know how when you grow up with somebody, their family and your family, you just kind of interchange the, like all of his aunts, I call them kaki only. Like, it's not like, there's not much this thing. So one of his aunts was with us, and she bet that I couldn't finish that glass of beer. Some conversation was ensuing. This maybe I was 16, 17 years old. And I said, I can drink this beer. She's like, no, I know you will hate the beer. You've never had beer, you'll hate the taste. And I said, ooh, opportunity. And I said, what will you give me? So she said, $500. I said, first you put it on the table, then only we're talking. And waited for her to put it on the table, and I downed it like
that's like a Bandiya speaking. Yeah. 500 dikha.
And then I took the 500, put in my pocket, and then I did a victory dance. It was great fun.
Nice.
Cigarette was actually it was very like, most people get offered their first cigarette, but I asked for my first cigarette. Because we were in Goa for some festival. And
the same one where Rafael and you were?
No. This is in law school. This is when I was in junior college, like 12th standard, I think. And we went to Goa for this college festival, and it's, November in Goa, it's nice weather, and it's waves, bit spilani and all. And full, great music we've had in the evening, and everything's been great. And all these kids are going out. And I knew that ye cigarette peene wale ladke hai, because they would always go out and smoke their cigarettes and all. And I walked out, I followed them, and it was like a bright, starry, like you can just a sky full of stars and barely any light to go by, and all of us are sitting in the grass. And then, I just took my first cigarette and took my first drag, and I didn't cough also, weirdly enough. It was just a very...
You mouth fact, that's why.
No. Hey, please. Anyway, my point is, it all felt like it was my body did not resist any of these things. So it always, when I started doing them, it felt like, okay, maybe this is something...
it makes sense to use
it makes sense to do this.
Yeah. So my first beer was my uncle in Mangalore. He gave me a whole pint of Pillsbury, I think. London Pillsbury.
London Pilsner. What a great beer.
What a cheap and great beer. Yeah. So he gave it to me like when I was 13, and in exchange, like for every sip of beer, he would like, give me a hug. Like as a welcome to the manhood club kind of thing. And my dad just sitting there watching. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, don't worry, I got this. So in many ways, my uncle's been my pseudo dad, because he taught me things my dad never told me. Like I spoke about sex with him first and stuff like that. And cigarette was when I was in college, and we had a active smoker in our group, and we all used to be like, ki kya tu ganda admi, all of that. Until one day during our diploma second year, we were intrigued. What is this about cigarettes that he likes so much? Because the guy was very sweet in general, and immediately because the families tell us that toxicity comes from... You villainize the smoker. So I was like, let me try. So my friend Adit and I also have an Adit. So
tera Adit bigad gaya.
Adit bigad gaya. So Ankur, my friend, was a smoker. Adit and I went to try with him. So we went to a pan bidi shop outside the station, and so he told us how to take a drag, and then he gave it to Adit. And he was like so scandalized, he just like took the cigarette and then like ran away. Like threw it on the floor and then ran away. And he's like, fucking, I paid $10 for this. So then Ankur picks it up, gives it to me, and I do the same thing. So now we've taken the commotion outside the station, and then the shopkeeper like, kya kar rahe ho bhai sahab? Why are you doing this? And then he's like, you look chute. He just got angry at us, very angry. And then I didn't smoke it like for like 2 more years until I got into degree engineering. And once you get into engineering degree, you basically do everything that's wrong with the world.
I completely... Like the first year I didn't smoke regularly. Like it was like you would smoke once in a while and feel guilty.
With alcohol. You feel the magic of smokes only when like you start drinking hard liquor. And then you feel like, it's an elevation. That's how it goes together. It's like bourbon and cigar, but like whiskey and cigarettes for us poor people.
Sir is past all this. He's also sitting there thinking, yaar, ye thoda... But how different was it being in college at your point in time? You were in college through what, the 70s?
No. I was in 88. Yeah, 79, 81, I think.
Okay.
So 79, 80, I joined college. That was in junior college, in some college in the suburbs, Somaiya. Then it was too much of a travel for me because I stayed near Mantralaya. So I really found it excruciating. So then I went to Xavier's, somehow with a long story behind it, got into Xavier's.
Oh, why?
No, because I actually had or I still have the 4 certificates of SSC.
Okay.
I appeared 4 times.
Okay.
So that's why I could not get admission in any place in townside. So Somaiya College, I went and joined there, and it was too much of a commute every day. So then I found somebody in Xavier's and applied for admission. I had applied earlier also during junior college, but I didn't get it. And then it was too late, so I went to Somaiya. And then again, I made some advanced planning and caught hold of some lawyer who was appearing for them in some matters, and somehow got a toe in, but still they would not entertain me. And then I caught hold of my elder sister and made her take me, because my dad said that, look, I came with you for the interview for the junior college, and the father who was in charge, he was again in charge during the senior college admission. So he said he was very clear, and I find that you have not lived up to what he had said. So hence, don't waste my time. I don't think you should bother changing colleges. Stick to where you are.
That's harsh.
So I said, "Ema su khotu che, apni college che Somaiya." Yes, but it's too far away. Anyway, so you want to change? It's your baby. You bother. So then I caught hold of this lawyer friend and my sister, and somehow managed to get an interview with the father. And the first thing he said, "My child, I'm sorry, it's too late. Admissions are over."
Yeah.
And my sister is also a lawyer. So he said, "Father, I have already made inquiries with our office, and they say the final list has not yet been sent to the university, so there is still time." He said, "Now what to do?" I say, "Well, but you see," then he opened the form and said, "You see, I'm sorry, but you see, I told your father also when you had come last time,
my child,
that Mr. Popat, we want intelligent students, but not necessarily all need to be intelligent, but they certainly need to be hardworking. Whereas I find from your school reports, right from 3rd, 4th standard up to the 9th, can do better, can do much better, needs to put in effort, too lazy." Now, Mr. Popat, you tell me, with so many applicants per seat, it sits very heavily on my conscience to give one seat to your son when so many others would be left out of the college. So all that dialogue really touched my dad, and he said, "Never ever will I bother putting anybody's conscience into so much problem."
That's a good thing. That's a thing that priests learn from default. That's one of those mechanisms that we have.
So, but the interesting part of that incident was that at that time, he was totally furious with me for a couple of years. In fact, right till I finished college.
For not being smart.
No. What happened was this, that when I went for that interview, he firstly was not ready to entertain. Secondly, somehow when we did get in, he said, "Sorry, it's late." He tried to, wriggle out of this thing. Okay, I have pressure from up also to consider you, but I'm not going to budge. If I don't bow to them, why should I bow to an ex-student who is now in front of me? And he said that, I said, "But father, remember what you told my dad." What did I tell him? I said, "You told him, Mr. Popat, if your son shows even slight improvement, I will consider him for senior college." So he said, "Yes, my child, but where is the improvement?" And in a lawyer's family, these things come very natural. So without batting an eyelid, I said, "Father, look at the certificates in front of you. For SSC, there are 4 certificates. For HSC, there are only 3. And the fellow had, he had totally lost it. I mean, I think that was the day he would have ruined that I'm a padri. I cannot curse her.
Well, they do.
But he was really red. And he was muttering and spluttering. And he said, but he was in a soup now, because he said, if you show slight improvement, I showed him. Yeah. So now he can't argue. And he said, no, but I'm sorry, but you see, all these subjects, that fantastic subjects you are talking about, I cannot give them to you. They are all full. What is this? Eco and statistics and all that. And very frankly, I was glad he said that because I had filled up those because they said उसमें जगह है. तो मैं भर डाला. अभी अपने को क्या लेना था? बोले अपन बढ़िया है. जितना है वो खून में है. उससे ज़्यादा जरूरत नहीं है इकोस्टैट्स का. But डाल दिया था. So he said, they are not available. I read it, said, very well, father. No, you better go to some other college where these subjects are available. I said, father, if I wanted to do that, I would have been somewhere else. No, here I am because I want to be in the college. That's more important. Why? I said, because my father was a student of this college. His elder sister was student of this college. His younger brother, student of this college. My own elder sister, student of this college. And hopefully my children will also come to this college. And he said, now, I already given him 5 reasons why I want to be in Xavier's. So he said, well, you see, my child, but understand that these subjects are not available. I said, no problem. What is available? Well, the only thing I can offer you is AIC. Take it or leave it. I said, accept it. I'll take it. And he was like shocked. He said, a person looking for eco and stats, talking of AIC.
What
the way now,
AIC?
that's I also didn't know that. So that was another episode outside his room.
Just put me in.
So yeah, he said, take it or leave it. I said, I'll take it. Okay, very well. What is the second major that you are looking at? I said, now you tell me, you are the boss. Yeah. You only are telling me what is available.
Short format.
I said, sociology. And you know, Gujarati we say, Nabhi mein se bolta hai. The way he said, I didn't understand then, but I realized later when I asked for sociology, he said, no, that is not available. I realized later on that he was a socio professor. And he flatly refused. I said, okay, what else is available? Well, the only other thing is history and French. Now, history, though, we all get bored with it. So I said, I'll take French. But my child, that is advanced French. I said, no problem. I have done basic in Alliance Française. No, I didn't tell him that I had failed there also. And I didn't realize till much later that the advanced they have here and the basic over there was something in between. It was a huge gap of 2 years which I had missed. So after basic was advanced and then this was further advanced. But then when I joined the class and the teacher realized I'm not getting a sense of it. And it was like I would just go to my sister and say, these are the words that were mentioned. I would write in Hindi and say, what do they mean? Because she had learned French. She said, Baba, taru bedo kyare partha se. The way you come asking for one word, you have to give a college exam. The teacher also realized. And then she started speaking in French. She said, I said, there were 15 girls in the room. And I was the only boy in that class. So I would sit next to one of them and very closely so that they could mutter to me what is being said in translation. So suddenly she said, don't look at me. I said, what happened? Oh, she's talking to you. I said, okay. I said, we. He said, no. I said, what is she saying? He's saying, meet me outside the class. I said, we. We means yes in French. Yeah. So then I met her outside, again outside the class. She started talking in French. I said, ma'am, I really don't understand what you are saying. I thought as much. From the first day I was suspecting. Tell me, Mr. Popat, what brings you to this class? I said, ma'am, I'm very much interested in French. And she said a very nice philosophical thing which I hold even till today and teach in one of my trainings. She said, Mr. Popat, pursuing your interests is not in your interest. And I found that very profound. Wow. Even till today. So I said, well, ma'am, what do you suggest I do? Well, I don't mind, though late it may be in the academic year. I will give you no objection and you can go to the office and change your subject. I said, very well. And I took that and headed back to the office and asked that fellow, कि भाई ये चेंज करके दो. बोला किस में करूँ? बोला सोशियोलॉजी में. बोला जगह है? बोला हाँ जगह तो है, but you'll have to talk to the teacher in charge. मैं बोला who is the teacher in charge? That is Father Emil. I said, Baba, तुम डालो, because he was the guy who took my interview, the vice principal. But and before that, when I stepped out of his office after the form that he had signed, okay, give admission, I came out of the room, and whilst walking out of the room to the office, I asked my sister, what is this AIC? And she lambasted me right there and then, shouted so loudly that the office staff came running all the way. Preeti, calm down. Is this boy harassing you? Of course, can't do. make out that he's harassing me to no ends. Don't worry. You go home. We'll take care of this. I'll call the police. Hey, police call. Come on now, please. Don't complicate my life any further than it already is. Preeti, calm down. What is the problem? Arey, he's my brother. Oh, so sorry. Why are you shouting at a brother? Arey, ask him only. Come on, ask him. He says, yeah, what is the problem? I say, I only asked her what is AIC and she's shouting. I don't worry, I'll tell you, she doesn't. What do you mean I don't know? I've studied in this college for so many years. I wouldn't know, of course. It is ancient Indian culture. I said, no problem. All these kathakas that we have attended, Murari Bapu, Ramesh Oza, Pandyaji, and I say all these people have taught us about ancient culture. And culture to apna lohi ma chhe, masu chhe. And we know everything. So big deal. We'll manage. We are Indian, so ancient Indian culture is not too far from us.
Most of us is made up anyways, so it's like...
No. That's
5 marks.
So then, that AIC I got, and then that French I got changed to socio, but without his permission. So,
wow.
The first day he saw me in class, he was muttering and he would not look at me. Then he went to the office and gave them left and right. How dare you do this? He said, don't worry. And then he caught me. He said, Popat, what did you do? Prathamesh, you didn't talk to father? I said, I told you now, I will talk to him. He said, but when? He already came and chewed my ears off. But the interesting part was that he never liked me for the first 2-3 years. But when he retired, that was after 15-20 years maybe. Later on, from the vice principal, he became the principal. From that, he became the rector of the whole institute. So that's the highest post in any institute. You have the rector, principal, vice principal. And when he retired as a rector and was moving on to his retirement, we had the Xavier's alumni at that time, staff and students, they organized a farewell party for him. And of course, we people were out of touch of the development. So they invited all of us. Hey, Emil is retiring, so we are throwing a farewell party for him. Come along. So we all went. And to my surprise, at somewhere in between the party, he was standing on the stage giving his talk and suddenly called out, Prathamesh, come here. Come on the stage. And I went up and he narrated this interaction to the minimalistic that he could. He said, here is a boy who, when he stepped into this institute, I could not bear to see his face.
Wow.
I detested him so much. But over the years, he has endeared himself. And I'm really glad that he has been a student of Xavier's. And I think, that acknowledgement, you don't need to. I mean, if you are caught by the cops and made to hang upside down, you may confess. But here it's all over. You don't have to say about your faulties of life. Nobody is bothering. Even he is not bothering. He has, he has gone past it, moved much beyond. And I have been friends with him over the last decade, often going to him for seeking favors for getting admission for someone or the other. He would sometimes say yes, sometimes say no. And I always tell him, he said, Prathamesh, again you are here. For whose admission now? I'm really sorry. I said, no problem. First we meet. I do my duty because my mother says, go. I have a duty to her. I come. Then you have a duty to your institute. You say, no problem. I will go. You say, no, I will go. Chalta hai. But first hear me out. And that was like virtually every other year. So over the years we became real good friends. And still, I mean, you can imagine कि अभी कुछ बाकी है और बात करो to get it off your chest is fine. But yeah, it's all over. We are now friends. There is no need for you to go to the past. But he did acknowledge that yes, when he came in, I was really detesting him. And he made it known very openly to several. And he would even complain to the rector at that time that you are chadaving this fellow unnecessarily. And to that extent, complaining to the rector about me. And I came to know about that not because the rector ever told me, but once when I had failed and I said, look, I have not been given the university form for the exam. He said, well, my friend, you know how it works. If you get more than 1 or 2 failures, something that was in your 6 papers, then you don't get the form. I said, but how can I get failures in more than 1? I don't think I would have failed in any. Well, all the marks are in front of you. So I looked that in 3 I was failing out of 6. And they said up to 2 it is allowed. So up to 2 you fail, then we may still give you the form for the university. Those are the, the prelim exams, the internals. So I said, now what do you want me to do? He said, well, you need at least one person to say, okay, you are through in his subject. And I would have great respect for you if you get that from Emil.
Wow. You know Harry Potter? He's like your Snape. Literally, he's like your Snape. No? It's only in the end does he have a change of heart.
So he said, I would मानूंगा तुमको अगर तुम Emil से लेके आओ. He told me. I said, okay, done.
Challenge accepted.
And then I went to Father Emil. And after 1 week, he said, hats off, boy. I said, what happened? Emil had a word with me and you are through.
Wow.
How did you do it? Someday let me know. I said, those are trade secrets.
Now can you reveal that?
Now
it's been while now. So.
No, but something more interesting happened. This AIC that I was doing. No, but this AIC that I was doing, I filled in that also.
Okay.
So I got even that. And I went to that Padri also. And that Padri was, everybody, all fingers are not the same. So even amongst the priests, they are not all the same. Here is a proper in-between Emil, one very loud and robust and very humorous person like the rector, Father Masya. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have someone like the AIC professor. He was very conservative. So jokes were not taken so easily. And it so happened that I didn't gauge these things. Like my interaction with the rector was so great. And this rector was a Spanish person. He would open his heart out and, we would go on these big trips of 15 days where sometimes you have nothing to do. So he would chat with us and talk about his life. And the girls would ask him, Father, what made you become a priest? Yeah. And how did you do that? And he would really openly say that blah, blah, blah and all that. He said, then how did you finally depart from your girlfriend? He said, well, we went to an orchard. We sat under a tree. I placed my head on her laps and she was fingering through my ears and my hair. And slowly I told him that this is my calling. He said, yeah, we discussed that. And that's how we did it. So my whole level of interaction being that, I was taking things pretty easy with the rest of the padris. So like this padri said, can anybody tell me, after all religions are the same, you have the 10 commandments in Christianity and you have the 10-fold dharma in Hinduism, and basically they're all the same. Like for example, can anybody tell me one of the 10 commandments? Now, we are products of mad comics. So, you are a product of a past. So, जितना मालूम होगा उतना ही बोलेगा. तो mad comic पढ़ते पढ़ते जितना याद था, I remembered at least one. So I said, I know only one. Now, this is college, not school that you raise your finger. So, चलो एक बंदा बकरा मिला. Yes, let's have it out. One. So one. What is it? I said, it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Yes, very good. That's the 6th one. And what does it mean? I said, its meaning is pretty clear. Maybe for you, not for the class. Could you please elaborate? I said, it means that the wives of the rest of the world are open to you. He got so furious when I narrated that to my rector. At that time, exactly I remember the scene. Fortunately, he was not facing me. He was sideways with his shoulder blade facing me. And he was sipping his coffee and his cigarette in his hand. And I narrated this punchline that the wives of the rest of the world are open to you. And his coffee spluttered, his cigarette went, ashtray fell down, there was a huge bang and a noise, and the whole staff of the priest's canteen came running. What happened? This old man got a heart attack or something. And he was literally fully red. And he then later on composed himself saying, you are really having a death warrant against you. How could you tell him all those things? I would love to hear from him what now he feels about you. That's how things are, with Xavier's College. You really have those good memories. And yes, of course, ultimately I did pass out from Xavier's again with a second attempt maybe. But then I got into law. Again, law also, we have these rules about 50% minimum required. So I had to go to some other college where they would allow it below 50%. I was a little difference was there, 1 or 2%.
That's one regret I have though. Like I had applied to Xavier's after school. I had applied to Xavier's Arts because my interest was in literature and stuff. But my brother-in-law, the same one who found my cigarette lips, he was the one who did diploma from Xavier's, the diploma college, which is the same, Jesuits run the same college. But then it's called Chota Xavier's by default because the unfun Xavier's, not the good campus or whatever. So I was forced to go there and never got to go to the Xavier's. And a lot of my friends who went there had like great experiences in general because that college is such a vibrant community.
Very vibrant.
And culture and arts and science and everything is celebrated over there. That's one regret I still have to this day, that I should have just went with my guts. I got my name appearing on the list. Should have just gone there and paid the fee and gotten in. So, but I
had a very turnaround moment to Xavier's where I had applied in junior college. I didn't get in, and then after 12th I did the 5-year integrated law course. So there was that's where I met Dhaval also.
Okay.
So I didn't have to. I mean, Xavier's was not in the picture. But during college, we would apply for that goddamn Malhar. Every time, and I would never get through. Okay. It was very heartbreaking never to get through. And then one day I got called to do a TEDx talk at Xavier's. So then I had like now I'm walking through.
Nice. Cool.
But
what was the topic of the TEDx?
I was talking about how I use stand-up comedy to open people up towards the conversation of sex and sexual health.
Okay, that's good.
So it's called India, Let's Talk About Sex.
Awesome.
It's very okay. In retrospect, whenever you go to one of these things and you say something, you realize like 6 years or whatever, 6 months down the line, you realize, I was so dumb. I should have not said any of these things.
Just so you can put like TEDx fellow on your bio wherever.
Is it?
Yeah.
I have not done that anywhere.
A lot of people do that. TEDx fellow. Okay, great.
And the last thing you want is having your prospective girlfriend come across these recordings.
No, all girlfriends are first made to see all this. All cards on the table.
I remember, when you mentioned that all cards, the only day when I have had a cigarette, maybe a bidi also, had a pan, had a coffee, had a tea, had a wine, had a beer, had a vodka, all of these.
Only a joint is remaining now.
No, but all on one day.
It's not remaining.
Which was the day when I first met the one who is now my wife.
Okay.
When we were introduced to each other, it was an arranged marriage. So they said, "Nahi, jara bahar jao, dono baatein karo, come to know each other properly. Then we'll consider engagement." So that first day in her town, I took her out in the morning.
Where is she from?
Bangalore.
Okay.
So I picked her up at around 9:30 from her residence, and ultimately dropped her at around 8:30 in the night, 9:30. So from virtually 9 to 12 hours we were out, during which time we had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I had all these stupid things, which most of which I don't even have. Even those days I wouldn't have every day. But I made it a point, because I know at least in my community, Orthodox that we are, we always oversell. Smoking? अरे हमारा बच्चा चाय तक को हाथ नहीं लगाता है, आप सिगरेट की क्या बात कर रहे हैं? So I knew all that, and therefore I ensured I do all these things.
So she knows who you are.
So when 6 months down the line, when my wife said, if only I had known, I said, don't open your mouth, madam. Only for you. One day I had everything, just to show it to you. There was nothing that you could have heard which could have misled you, because I did everything in front of you.
Such a lawyer thing to do.
Badu proof api dewa.
So
nothing, no proof against me now.
I think that's why lawyers are the best to be in a relationship with. Like between me and my girlfriend, it is such a sort, because everything is very out in the open.
Yes.
Like, listen, these are the terms and conditions of engagement, and now you don't need to cut it out. Now you don't need to. Now she met my parents, so it's okay. So Last time I said it, I made them cut it out, so I'm sorry. Anyway, now it can be rock and roll. Anyway, my point has been lost entirely. So I think we should wrap this up. I wish we had more time on this, though. There are so many other interesting facets of your life that I'm sure we would like to hear more about.
Maybe in the third season.
Yeah, maybe. Or a part 2 in second season itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's leave it open to our listeners. Dear listeners, if you want more stories from Prathamesh Popat, vote Y.
Vote Y?
Yeah.
Why?
SMS Y.
Achha, the letter, I thought the word Y.
I didn't say why, like Kevin Spacey does. Yeah, so that's it from us on this episode of Varta Lab. Thank you so much, Mr. Prathamesh. We had some great stories and some great interactions. And once again, hoping that maybe we can do Vipashana together one day. Why not? But
I don't think Vipashana is one of the things
together.
that you do.
But I think it will be more fun to do.
Imagine knowing someone in the Vipashana for 10 days, just looking at them like,
What's up? Awesome. So until then, this is an episode from season 2. Where can we talk to you online if people want to get in touch with you?
Certainly.
Yeah.
But the risk is that, as I told you in the starting, that when Akash called up, my wife was next to me hearing, and she said, "Why do they want you when I am around?" So if you call,
so
and if she picks up the phone, she may start answering. Arey, you ask me, and I know more about him than even he knows.
We won't give out phone number. That will be too much.
That will be too much.
Awesome.
But do you have a Twitter or a
Instagram?
I have, but I have never used it for the last couple of years.
Good man, just like me.
Yeah.
I completely.
So if you have any more questions,
I do have LinkedIn. You can get.
Oh, you can find Prathamesh Popat on LinkedIn. It's very easy to find on LinkedIn.
Yeah, Prathamesh D. Popat, or you can look for Prachi Mediation Chambers. And in fact, I just found out my handle on LinkedIn is linkedin.com/IN/Mediation Chamber.
Okay.
I remember now, that's what I had put in.
Awesome.
So I got that, Mediation Chamber.
Awesome.
Cool. You can find Navin at House of Norona.
And Aakash is Kudbi Mehta.
Thank you so much for listening, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
How aware do you think you are of your laws and rights? Do you look up to laws when you are caught up in situations? Do you know what your rights are when you're stuck somewhere bad? Well, here's a show that can help you move an inch closer to being aware of what your rights are. Tune into Know Your Qanoon with me, Amber Rana. This is a podcast meant to answer all your law-related queries. Catch Know Your Qanoon every week on the IVM website or the app or anywhere you get your podcast from.
Do you have a night routine? Well, everyone has one. And the to-do list usually looks like this. Brush your teeth, set that alarm, get into your pajamas, and switch off those screens. But here's one more to add to that list. Tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast for a dose of positive action and tips on how to build powerful mindsets. Episodes out every Monday on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you tune into podcasts.